Practice 5, exercise 1. Okay, let me look at the first line first as usual. Turmeric is extensively cultivated in the tropics and the root is widely used. You can see the words is and is. This indicates that this passage is most likely in present tense. Now let me go to the last line just to check. You can see the word warrants. So this confirms that this passage is in present tense. Present tense. You can take note, this is an extra tip for you. You should not immediately jump to the words. Jump to the verbs, to be more exact. Look at the words cultivated and used. If you jump to such words immediately, you would mistakenly assume that this passage is in past tense when it's actually in present tense. And actually these words used and cultivated, they are actually past participles used to support the word is. So you should not be looking directly at the verbs, or rather you should not be looking immediately at the verbs, and you should read through the whole line first. Okay, let me move on. It has a deep golden color orange and looks similar with stranger. You can see the error is over here, the word with. It's actually supposed to be to. This is a preposition question. And the word similar to, this is a collocation. Collocations are basically words that are always paired up together in that particular order. For example, commit murder or make the bed. These words always appear together. So you can say that they sound right if you read extensively. But if you do not read extensively and you want your sound right to actually be right, you have to go and memorize the list of the more commonly tested collocations for editing practices. Okay, moving on. It's usually boiled, sun-dried, and then grind into a powder. You can see the words boiled and sun-dried. They are both in past tense. So the word grind has to be in past tense as well. But the past tense of grind is not grounded, and it's not grinded either, but it's ground. So this is a tense question. Okay, moving on. It has a peppery, warm flavor and is mild, fragrant. This is an adverb, so it cannot be mild but mildly. This is a word form question. Okay, moving on. Turmeric is the main ingredient in curry powder and can be used as a coloring agent. Similar to what I mentioned in the previous passage, after the words can be must be a past participle, so it cannot be used but used with a D. This is a tense question. Okay, turmeric has also played an important role in traditional Eastern cultures. Much of its newfound popularity are due to its therapeutic properties. The word popularity, this is an uncountable noun. So just like earlier, uncountable noun, you cannot take it as a plural but singular. So this cannot be are but is. This is an SVA question. Okay, moving on. We are often told that colorful plant foods are good for our health. I don't see any issues here, so I'll leave it alone first. Good for our health because of their phytochemical properties, and turmeric is no different. Doesn't seem like there's any errors either. Leave it alone first. Moving on. It has a range of health-promoting benefit. You can see over here, the word range, this is a collective noun. So because this is a collective noun, it cannot be benefit, but benefits. It has to be plural. So this is a singular plural question. So some examples of collective nouns would be a swarm of bees, you can see it's plural, a school of fishes, a company of actors, a fleet of ships, and an agenda of tasks. You can see that all these words at the end after the collective noun, they are all plural, not singular. Okay, moving on. As diseases and age-related degenerative disorders is closely associated with oxidative processes in the body, they mention two things, diseases and age-related degenerative disorders. So it cannot be is, but are. This is an SBA question. Okay, moving on. Closely associated with oxidative processes in the body, the use of herbs and spices as the source of antioxidants to combat oxidation warrants further attention. Because the source of antioxidants to combat oxidation warrants further attention, this whole line over here, this is something general, non-specific. So it cannot be the, but a. This is an article question. Okay. So just like what Teacher Jamie's mentioned earlier, you can treat article questions like an MCQ question. You only have 3 choices, a, an, and the. These two, a and an, they are for non-specific general things, whereas the, this is for something specific, like the person that I like. And actually, N is not dependent on how you spell the word. I know many of you think that N is when the word starts with A-E-I-O-U, but it's actually wrong. It's dependent on how the word sounds. So as you can see here, you should use N before a word beginning with a vowel sound and not based on how you spell it. So an MBA degree, even though it doesn't start with A-E-I-O-U, but because it has a N-E sound, so it is the word N. And our, the H is silent, so it has an O sound. So it's N. Whereas you can see on the other sides, all 3 starts with U, but they're all because they don't have the vowel sound of A-E-I-O-U. Okay, moving back, I only have 2 blanks, so this is where my ticks will be. And you should always remember to put your ticks. Don't just leave it blank, or you'll end up giving away free marks. Because I know that's what a lot of people actually do, including me sometimes. Okay, so let me share some tips with you. I used to be a consistently A1 student. So for me, my method of doing editing is actually to glance through the passage, and the wrong answers will instinctively pop out to me, stand out to me. So I would just write down the instinctive answers. This is based on my standard of sound correct, which I know many of you like to follow. Okay, but sound correct, right? For me, it is highly accurate because I read extensively since I was young. Personally, it's because I like reading, not because like my mom forced me to or anything like that. So it is my personal choice to read 10 to 15 English books a month when I was in secondary school. And that is how I hone my skill of sound correct to be actually correct. Okay? So even for me, even though I get an A1 always, I do always end up with 3 or 4 blanks by the time I'm done with my editing. So what are you supposed to do then? You don't just sit there and stare. You are supposed to start scrutinizing the words in the sentences with the blanks. Read through every word in that sentence carefully. One thing you can do is to slow down your pace of reading. You can linger on every word. Use a pen or a ruler, or even just your finger to guide you through slowly, and keep your eyes on every word. And when you're reading, you can move your pen and ruler along. So if this still does not help you to spot the error, it probably means that it's a killer passage for me. So this is when I would go into hunting mode. I would reread and inspect the whole passage, not just the lines with the missing answers. And one thing you can do to help yourself, you can write down another column of answers next to your blanks to compare. And you can also write down your final answers into the passage to read it again carefully. So this will help your eyes to connect and be able to spot the errors in your answers more easily.